Picture that you are underwater looking up. Just above you, out in the open air, sits your next meal, a small insect resting on a leaf, on a branch, safely out of reach. You have no hands. You cannot jump. You cannot climb out and grab it. By every rule you know, that meal is untouchable. And yet you take aim and you fire a jet of water out of your own mouth. A tight, hard stream like a stream from a rifle. And you knock that insect clean off its perch and into the water, where it is yours. But here is the part that should stop you. The light bending between the air and the water means the insect is not actually where it appears to be. So you cannot aim at what you see. You have to aim at where it truly is and hit it on the first shot. This is not a trick I am imagining. One animal does exactly this every day, and it is a small, plain-looking fish. It is called the Archerfish. I'm Ren, and the creature I want to sit with today is one you would walk right past at a pet store. A little fish in a tank? Unremarkable. But that fish is quietly solving a physics problem that you needed a classroom to be taught, and it is solving it as a reflex. So let me try carefully to take you inside a mind that shoots down the sky. There's an old idea in biology I lean on in every one of these, from a man named Jakob von Uexkull. He called it the Umwelt, an animal's self-world. Not the world as it truly is, but the thin slice of it that one particular body is built to sense and to use. Yours is built around your eyes and your hands. When you look at the surface of a pond, you see a shimmer, a reflection, maybe your own face looking back, pretty and nothing you would call a tool. For the archerfish, that same surface and the way light bends as it crosses it is not a nuisance and not decoration. It is the aiming problem it has solved so completely that it no longer has to think about it. So start with what the archerfish is actually doing, because it is stranger than it sounds. It hunts prey that is not in the water at all. Insects on leaves, on stems, on branches overhanging the surface. To reach them, it has turned its own mouth into a weapon. It presses its tongue up against a long groove in the roof of its mouth, and the two together form a narrow barrel, like the barrel of a gun. Then it snaps its gill covers shut hard, and that sudden squeeze pressurizes the water and drives it out of the barrel in a single, focused jet. The fish rises until its mouth just breaks the surface. It aims, and it fires. The jet slams into the insect and blasts it off its perch, and the insect falls, and the moment it hits the water, the fish is already there. Now here is the first thing that ought to be impossible. Think about what the fish is looking through. Light travels in a straight line through the air and a straight line through the water. But at the surface, where air meets water, it bends. Physicists call it refraction. It is the same effect that makes a straw look broken where it enters a glass of water. And it means that when the archerfish looks up at that insect from below, at an angle, the insect does not appear where it truly is. Its apparent position is shifted away from its real one. If the fish aimed at what it saw, it would miss every time. But it does not miss. It aims at where the insect actually is, correcting for the bend. And it does this from a wide range of angles, from nearly straight overhead all the way out to something like 70 degrees off the vertical, a shallow, punishing angle where the distortion is at its worst. Somewhere in that small brain, the correction for refraction is already done automatically before the shot. You would need a diagram and a formula. The fish just fires. And the shot itself is not a dumb squirt of water. This is the detail I cannot get over. As the jet travels up through the air, the fish shapes it. It sends the water so that the tail of the stream catches up to the front, and the whole jet gathers into a single heavier blob of water right at the moment it reaches the target. It concentrates all of that force into one blow at exactly the right distance, as if it were shaping a hammer out of water in mid-flight. It is, in a real sense, using water as a tool held out at arm's length, a tool with no arm at all, and it scales the shot to the job. A bigger insect, or one farther away, gets a bigger, harder shot. The fish spends more water on a target that needs more knocking down and less on an easy one. It is not one blind reflex. It is a measured act, tuned to distance and to size. And then, the moment the insect is hit, a second problem begins, and the fish has already started solving it. The prey is knocked loose and it is falling. And in a tank full of other archerfish, whoever reaches the landing point first gets the meal. So the shooter cannot wait to see where its catch comes down. Within a fraction of a second of the hit, before the insect has fallen any real distance, the fish reads the way the prey first started to move, its initial speed and direction, and from that alone it computes where the insect is going to land. Then it launches itself at once to that future spot, and it arrives just as the prey does. It is predicting a trajectory in real time from the very first flicker of motion and beating its rivals to the answer. Now, sit with the whole picture at once, because this is the turn. To knock that insect down and get it, the archerfish is, in the space of a single second, correcting for the refraction of light through a surface, controlling a jet of water so its force lands in a concentrated blow at the right range, scaling that force to the size and distance of the target, and predicting the falling path of the prey from its first instant of movement. Refraction, ballistics, fluid control, trajectory prediction. Every one of those is something we teach in a classroom, something a trained human does slowly, with effort, on paper. The archerfish does all of them together as a reflex in a brain that is nothing like yours. And it did not even come knowing how. Young archerfish are clumsy shooters at first, and they get better with practice, the way you would expect. But here's the part that lifts the hair on my arm. An archerfish can learn to hit a moving target just by watching another archerfish do it. It learns by observation, picking up the skill from a tank mate without ever firing a practice shot of its own. A fish learning physics by watching over its neighbor's shoulder. And I have to be honest about how we know this, and about what we still cannot know. The work here is real and careful. Researchers, and Stefan Schuster and his colleagues in particular, have spent years on these fish, have filmed archerfish shooting with high-speed cameras, measured the angles they hit from, measured how they shaped the jet, tracked how fast they turned to the landing point, and tested how they learn from one another. We can measure the shot, we can measure the correction, we can watch the whole extraordinary sequence frame by frame. What we cannot do is feel it. In 1974, a philosopher named Thomas Nagel wrote a famous essay with a haunting title, "What is it like to be a bat?" His point was simple, and it stays with me. You could learn every fact about a creature's senses, every organ, every signal, and still never know the one thing that matters most, what it is like, from the inside, to be that creature. I can tell you the archerfish corrects for the bending light and shapes the water and reads the fall. I cannot tell you what any of that feels like to the fish, whether the aim is a thought or a hunger or nothing like either one. That stays on the far side of a wall we cannot cross. It is our best guess, and I want to mark it clearly as a guess. This is not a simple animal doing a party trick. It is another mind, genuinely other, running physics you had to be taught as easily as you blink. But before you go, let me turn the whole thing around and point it back at you. Because the next time you stand at the edge of a pond or lean over a fish tank, look down at that surface. To you, it is a shimmer, a mirror, a thing you glance at and forget. You would never think of it as an aiming problem because you have never had to shoot through it. To an archerfish, that same surface is a lens it has learned to see straight through, a bent line of light it corrects for 100 times a day without a single mistake. The very same water in front of both of you. For you, a reflection. For the fish, the one thing standing between it and every meal it has ever caught. There is no single correct way to meet the world. There is no ladder with dull creatures at the bottom and us flattering ourselves near the top. There are only different instruments pointed at different problems. Yours never had to solve refraction to eat. A fish's whole life turns on it, and it solved it without ever knowing it was a problem at all. So here's what I would love to know down in the comments. What is one thing you had to be taught slowly, with effort, that some animal simply does without thinking? And does it change how you see that little fish in the tank to know it is running the physics you sweated over as a reflex? There is no right answer. I just want to hear yours. I read every one. If sitting quietly at the edge of another mind is your kind of strange, subscribe and stay close. There is a whole planet of them out there, thinking in ways we will never fully reach, and next time we'll go and find another one. I'm Ren. Mind the water you only ever look at.